everybody. So I've been talking a lot about makeup and skincare, but mostly makeup this month. And I thought I would do a video dedicated to something I love more than makeup. Not the only thing, but, and that would be books. That is my first love, my deepest love, my longest love, books. So instead of just doing a general what I'm reading now, I thought, well, mostly what I read is the latest in whatever, one of my favorite series. So I thought the best idea would be to share my top 10 book series, except that there are 12. And there are probably more like 20, but I had to stop. I could sit here all day and talk about books. So if I haven't mentioned a series that you think I should read, chances are really good I have actually read it, but I still want those recommendations because I'm always looking for a new series. So before I even get any further, start putting those book recommendations in the comments below. Okay, so I just have to start by saying I do feel drawn to a specific kind of series. I like fantasy, not so much science fiction, but I like fantasy, I like paranormal, and I like mysteries. That's my thing. I'm not looking for deep, I'm not looking for intellectual, I'm not looking for the next Oprah book club, sad, melancholy, depressing. It's not my thing. If you love those books, that's great. For me, reading is an escape. I literally tune the world out. Once I was reading at the library as a kid, I was curled up in a window seat reading, I have no idea what. The fire alarm went off. They evacuated the building. The fire department came, decided it was a false alarm, and put everyone back in the building. I didn't hear a thing, and nobody knew that I was in there. That's great. Anyway, I really do tune out everything when I read. So let's start with the series that really got me going. It's a really old series, and it was the first fantasy series that I read that was an adult genre, like an adult level book, and that was The Belgariad by David Eddings, and I still have all of them here. It's actually two series. The Belgariad is the first 5 books in the series, and then there's a second series that's like a follow-up, and that is another 5 books called The Malloreon. But these came out in the, I think, early 80s. So that's when I started reading them. I was in middle school, 5th grade, 6th grade, I think, when this first started. And it's sort of a classic coming-of-age story. It's set in a fictitious planet world that is, you know, it's like Earth, basically. And it's kind of games of, it's like, it looks like it's set in like the Games of Thrones kind of time, like sort of Middle Ages. And it's a classic coming of age, good and evil, kind of almost Arthurian tale. Now it's all available on Kindle because these books are literally, have been read, reread 1,000 times and are falling apart. I mean, I have, my mom wrote my name in the inside cover, my name at the time. That's my mom's handwriting. And this one came out in 1982. So I was 9 years old when I started reading these. Maybe not appropriate for a 9-year-old. Oh well, anyway. Okay, the next series is a very grown-up series. Again, a series I've been reading for about 20 years since it first came out, and it's the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, and it is now, of course, a famous and very popular TV series. The 3rd season just started, and it's already, I think, the best season so far. But it started as a book series. There are 8 books currently in the series. She is writing another one as we speak. Write faster, Diana. It's a historical fiction type book with time travel thrown in, and it starts in post-World War II in Scotland with our heroine Claire, and she walks through some standing stones and finds herself in 1743 Scotland just before the Scottish Rebellion of 1745, and it goes from there. And so there's a little bit of paranormal, but really that's not the focus of the story. This series is this great romance and the big war. There's a lot of war, and just the historical fiction, and you learn a lot. She researches a lot, and you learn a lot about the time period, and it's fascinating. And here is my original. I have everything on Kindle now because this is what happens to my books. I have reread this thing so many times that it literally, I mean, it's falling apart. This, like, one section, can you see the big chunk? Like, right, yeah. So it's falling out. This next one I've talked about, none of these should be shockers to you except maybe the first one. It's the All Souls trilogy. The first book in the series was A Discovery of Witches, and it's by Deborah Harkness. And this is definitely in the paranormal genre. There's 3 books in obviously it's a trilogy. There's 3 books in the series. A companion book has just been released or is about to be released, kind of backstories and author's notes and things like that. The main characters are a witch and a vampire. They are professors at Oxford University in England. So there is some time travel, there's witches, there's vampires, there are demons, but not the way you think. There is time travel, did I mention that? It's fascinating. There's a lot of science, believe it or not. Anyway, love, love, love that series. How many times am I going to say that? The next series, we leave the paranormal behind and we go into the future. It's the In Death series by J.D. Robb. It's a pseudonym for Nora Roberts. And there are, let me check my notes. There are 56 books in the series. A new one came out this month, which of course I read as soon as it came out. A new one comes out every February and September every year. So it's in the future. The main character is a police detective named Eve Dallas, and she solves murder mysteries. It's a new murder every book. I don't want to give anything else away. I don't want, because I'll give something away. But every book is called something in death. The first book, I believe, was Naked in Death, Secrets in Death, whatever in death. They're always, the last two words in the title are in death, hence the In Death series. Okay, back to paranormal. And an author that I'm going to mention again, this is the Canesville series by Kelly Armstrong. She's written another favorite series of mine. This is a newer one. The last book in the series just came out in August, I want to say. Kind of left it open-ended though. I think she could keep going. This is the only solid cover of it I own. The rest I own are hardback. The rest I own in Kindle form. And this is set in present-day Chicago area, and the main character is a young lady who comes from a very wealthy family and suddenly realizes her life is not what she thought. Her family is not who she thought they were, and she finds herself in this much different, darker, paranormal type world. Can't really say more than that. There aren't like demons and vampires and witches, but there are fae or fairies, and I'm not talking Tinkerbell. It's a lot of like Gaelic and Irish legend in there. It's interesting. Just if you like this sort of thing, you'll like that. Speaking of Kelly Armstrong, the other series, the one that I originally started with her, that introduced me to Kelly Armstrong, is her Otherworld series, and those are 13 books. The main characters are always a woman, and there are werewolves and vampires, yes, and witches and all kinds of fun things. And it's mostly set in Canada and or like northern upstate, like New York. And I think it was made into a TV series, and I love those characters. Each book has a different main character. Sometimes you go back to revisit them, but it's told in the voice of one of her main women paranormal creatures. It's a great, great series. I wish it had not come to an end. Okay, back to mysteries. This one inspired our trip. Sometimes they do. We went to Scotland because of Outlander, and we went to Alaska because of this series. It's the Kate Shugak series. It's by Dana, I think you pronounce her last name Stabenow or Stabenow. I've never heard it said out loud, but she is a brilliant author. There are 21 books in the series. It is set in Alaska. The main character is Kate Shugak. She is a native, I think you pronounce it, I've been told, Aleut. All these years I thought it was Aleut. It's Aleut. She's a private detective. She lives on a homestead in the wilderness of Alaska as a private investigator. These are all mystery novels. But what's interesting is the state of Alaska is almost another character in this series. You learn so much about Alaska and the people who live there and the different tribes and the traditions, and it's fascinating. So it was really neat to go to Alaska this summer and see just a tiny glimpse of what I had already learned about through these books, and it was very accurate because she's a scientist by trade, and so it's a very detail-oriented, very interesting book series. So love the Kate Shugak series. She also wrote another one called the Liam Campbell series, which sort of piggybacks. They do meet in a novel, so there's some crossover there. So if you like the Kate Shugak series and you want more, there is the Liam Campbell series as well. Okay, sticking with mystery series, I'm on to, I think, number 7 here in my list, is the Gideon Oliver mystery series by Aaron Elkins, and the main character is a forensic anthropologist, and each book, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, is set somewhere else. Like, he travels. He's always traveling, and he always ends up in these disasters or / mystery adventures. So main character is a doctor, a forensic anthropologist, and he solves mysteries by looking at bones, which I really enjoy reading those. There are 18 books in the series. This is just totally lighthearted and fun. It's the Andy Carpenter series, and it's set in present day New Jersey, and the main character is Andy Carpenter, who is, I guess you'd say, a reluctant attorney. He just does not want to work. He hates being an attorney, but he's really good at it, and he keeps taking these crazy cases. And I can't tell you why he can turn down cases or take down cases that will make him no money, because you learn that in the first book. But there are 14 or 15 books in this series, and the other main character not in the series is his golden retriever. And the focus of every book is some kind of dog. There's always a dog issue. So if you're a dog lover, this is a great series, and it's very lighthearted. It's fun to read, and I always laugh out loud when I read his books. They're just fun, easy reads, and very, very fun. All right, next, this one isn't as fun, but it's not as dark as the next series. This is the Duncan Kincaid, Gemma James series by Deborah Crombie. I should have said the Andy Carpenter series is written by David Rosenfeld. I will list all those below, by the way. Okay, now back to Duncan Kincaid and Gemma James. It's like a police procedural type series set in London, mostly in the UK in general. Sometimes they, leave London, but mostly it's set in London. And they are partners in the London police. Is it the Metropolitan Police, I think is what you call it out there. And there are currently 17 books, like I said, in the series, and they hook you in. You will keep thinking about these characters when the books are over. So I highly recommend that one. Now onto a series that gets kind of dark sometimes. It's the Inspector Gamache series by Louise Penny. These books are set in Montreal and the surrounding area in Quebec. Inspector Gamache is the main character. He is a detective or chief inspector with the Montreal police. There's a real title, but the name escapes me. He's a native French speaker. The books are written in English, but there's French sprinkled throughout. And obviously there's a murder mystery every book. And sometimes it gets a little dark and deep. Not deep, but dark. And sometimes a little deep. But you just get so attached to these characters, and like I think I said, 17 books in the series. A new one just came out. I just read that one too. So love that series. And then the last series that I'm going to recommend, I'm on to number 12, sorry I cheated, is the Deborah Knott series by Margaret Maron, I think is how you would say her name. There are 20 books in the series. It's set in I don't know what part, it's set in North Carolina. The main character is Judge Deborah Knott, and kind of follows her adventures, always a murder mystery, right? And her family, she's this daughter of a bootlegger, and she has like 12 brothers and sisters or something outrageous like that. She's an adult, but the whole extended family and the dynamics of a small town in North Carolina and the history of North Carolina comes into play a little bit, and I personally, when I read her books, I'm like, I want to live in a small town in North Carolina and be related to everybody in the town. Like, I would love that. And then I realized there would be no Target. No, I'm kidding. But her characters are really well written, and you feel like you're part of the family as you're reading these books, and you do get very attached to them. And I love Deborah Knott, even though she's not a real human being, you feel like she is. So those are 12 of my favorite series. There are so many more I could mention, like the Kathy Reich series, which influenced Bones, or the Aunt Dimity series, or what was it? Karen Marie Moaning series. Is it Fae Fever? I can't even remember the name of it. So many. I love series. Oh, I'm reading one right now. It's the October Day series by Shannon McGuire. That's a great series. I'm reading the number 11. No, I just finished number 11. I decided to go back and reread the first 10 books. So I love series. I like to just sink in and really get to know the characters. I love rereading the series. Am I the only person that does this? Like multiple times I do this. Especially when there's something like 56 books or 20 books in a series. You can't remember every detail reading it once. You've got to go back and read it again. So anyway, that's what makes me happiest in life, is my little pile of books here, whether they're here in real life or on my Kindle or in my phone. I always have a book with me. So I would love to hear from you. What are some of your favorites? Knowing what I like to read, leave your recommendations in the comments below. I'm always open and wanting to find some new authors to read. I hope you found this helpful. I can't wait to read your comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.